Getting laid off on April Fool's Day from your corporate job that you had has to be like one of the most evil, deviant things that corporate America can literally just do to somebody. And like the thing is on that is like just wait a day. Like they couldn't wait a day. So the thing is like being laid off on April Fool's Day literally just kind of goes to expose how much of a joke a corporate job can really just end up being. Like on top of like a lot of the work that you end up doing. Granted, I worked in advertising, so I feel like we really did stuff, but no one gives a fuck about ads except us anyways who work on it. You get your work for like a portfolio, but then outside of that, then it's just like, and then what? Tom Ford even kind of mentioned it, like you just don't even get to enjoy the creative or just anything that you've done within your work life, because once you finish one collection you're on to the next. So like you don't even get to stop. Like sure, you get to go to like the award shows, the shows, series like that, like campaign runtime, but then once that, it's like you're already on to the next thing. And I think that is like something like to say is like that is a kind of like a hard hitter with especially what is currently going on in the job market that we currently have. I mean, I know even it's like starting as like 2024, it's like been really bad, but it's like even worse than like in 2021. Most definitely is worse for us Gen Zers since the 2008 recession. But I feel like this is just kind of like our version of that, and then like that is in itself kind of like something that we're trying to really restructure, because I feel like in a way it was like I don't want to keep this on like a topic of like the bots or like AI, because honestly I've been using the programs literally even when I was working, so I felt like I was safe. I know how to use them enough that like I feel like it's not like the reason or like why a lot of companies are like hiring slash not hiring, right? Because like I know like it's essentially just a restructure, and so that on top of like just the current times we're in, like especially once clients are known, they're not going to be dumb, especially when they hear a promise that has been advertised to them of a service that can like literally revolutionize their workflow, their work state, and like especially how they go about things, especially for like the amount of money that they are dumping into, let's just say, their marketing objectives. Which first off, I totally understand if you are a smaller company and you just need to use like AI or like bots to kind of like generate your imagery, your photo shoots, your whatever, they should be willing to like kind of accept that they might get a lot of hate or be viewed as more disingenuous of a brand if they are using AI. I mean, I feel like even big companies, like if you see Coca-Cola, they're doing it too, but with them, they're big enough that it literally just doesn't even matter. Like they're gonna show you what AI looks like when it is in its bad state, especially for a commercial, before it actually ends up fully getting good to the point where you just don't even notice it, even though they're gonna use it. So these are the things that are going on behind the scenes that like just front facing, let's just say, consumers just wouldn't even notice, because they don't. Everyone's gonna see an ad. You're gonna see an ad regardless. There's going to be people working on them. Feel for them, because they are overwhelmed with the amount of things within that restructure they have to figure out. But even with that, like LinkedIn is like one of like the fakest thing ever. I even like saw one of my colleagues who like moved on with a different aspect in life, and they even like said it's like after like X amount of years they had a phenomenal experience or whatever through it. Was like, but I mean, I know the internals, and like it's the opposite of that. Matter of fact, we all had the same view on how bad it was, or on like just what it was. I should say that. Don't want to ruin my chances. But the thing is like when everyone kind of like just knows, especially on that platform like LinkedIn, where like everyone really is just showing you their best self. When you are someone who literally just can't even talk to a company, like I mean, I've applied upwards admittedly to like 1,000 jobs, and I've had maybe 20 interviews, and then within those 20 interviews, I would say maybe 4 of those companies were actually legitimate. Only 2 of them ended up going to final stages and still just didn't even get me anything. It really does just get to a point where you're just kind of like, dang, is it actually just me, or like is there really just something going on? Because I mean, I feel like even coming from like industry, it's a lot more like project management, and like you also do have to have communication skills with that. I mean, it seems confusing, or you could just kind of like get yourself confused with like exactly what is going on or what is wrong. Talking to a past colleague that they've mentioned that they've had the same experience. When they typically ask why you're looking for a job, you do say you've been laid off, or even if you're looking for a new opportunity, or if you're excited to even switch into a different industry because of X, Y, and Z, they just look at you weird when you mention that you don't have a job or you've been laid off and you've been affected. Because of the fact that you've been affected, they view you as infected. Am I right, guys? Am I right? And so that's just like one of those things that is like I just don't even understand. Is like, especially like when you use a reference at a company who can vouch for you wholeheartedly, and you still just kind of like don't get past like an initial screening or a first round interview going into a second, even when you feel like it should be good, like what are those people supposed to do? And I feel like that's just like one of those things that leads into the topic where it's been ongoing forever. I've even like found this like a study that like showed it wasn't even like within the past like our generation Zoomers where people just didn't even want to work anymore. There's news articles where they say the exact same headline hitter: people don't want to work anymore. It's not even a generational thing. It's just the fact that people have just full-heartedly accepted the fact that like we see what we're given and we just know it's not enough. Like I need bare minimum 30 an hour, and that's just to get by in this day and age. We're actually in a phase where making 60K is minimum. Back when you made 60K, even in like the early 2000s, you were set. You were kind of like on a good track. Now 120K a year, and I mean that's taxed on top of it. Like that's nothing, especially if you live in a city. RIP to your bank account. You still got 3 roommates or something. Things are getting restructured, and it does seem like probably like even white collar America is going to pay people less to be able to produce like the same amount of work that they have been doing, because they can technically just do it a lot more efficient, a lot more faster. It really does just blow me away that like executives and or just a lot of those kind of jobs where you just sit in Excel, no hate, but like they didn't really get replaced that fast. I understand like everyone is kind of being affected and going through it, but like it really is insane that like these companies just saw it was like, hey, there's a product that can like kind of relatively like make advertisements for like no production cost like at all. Why don't we just cut everyone that's in that industry like 5+ work streams of income, just to see if we can get like one intern just to like do it? And that's insane. I mean, there's even like videos out there where there's like a CEO just telling people like, you should have thought about this current time period that we're in happening in the restructure, so you should think about going into different careers. It's like I totally understand like get your money where you can, but it's like when you already figured out the structure on like what works well with you, why am I the one who's forced to have to figure it out again? No, we really are in a phase where people can go to an Ivy League school and be either in no better position than somebody who just didn't even go to college, or like even sometimes maybe even worse off, because if you don't even need to be qualified. Going to college isn't what gives you the qualification anymore. We are hitting a phase, and this is something I don't necessarily even like from what I keep hearing, is that we're in a phase where it's more of like a gig work economy in a way. Companies are going to more so view what you can do for them, not necessarily just if you're qualified to like do the job, but you also have to have like an X amount of talent on top of it, which I mean I guess makes sense, which is why you go to school. But when they're asking for multi years of experience on top of like regular jobs, and you can't get an internship on top of that, and there's no people really getting promoted, or if people are getting promoted or shifted, it's because there's that correction currently going on. People end up moving up, and then that's what it's a rehire. But the thing is, there's no structure for people to go. Also, I'm a little biased because I just saw the death of a company. It blows my mind the way that in corporate America, if you have someone who's a higher up who has a say in your career progression just doesn't like you, then like that person just wouldn't ever move. And I mean, I feel like that's always like been a thing where you kind of know you just kind of like gotta be a kiss up and like get through it, just to be able to like promote. But then I feel like that's like what I heard growing up, is like you kind of just gotta keep your head down, you'll be okay. With even when I graduated, the way I knew that people actually got like valuable promotions is by company hopping. And that is like also just like a thing right now where it just doesn't seem like it's a case, mainly because if some people have a job, they're kind of keeping the job. I also don't like that I recently just heard for 2026 the job market prediction is going to be kind of like just as stagnant as what 2025 has been. I would say if you are anyone who is like currently going through like a hard time, especially in the job market, because like it really just isn't your fault, and we kind of do just got to admit that like we're not even the ones who did anything wrong. I would say where I did everything right in life and I still got punished, or I'm personally made to feel like the only option is to just do it by yourself, as in like an example, like start a company or like something, which I feel like even that's just been a thing since COVID. People have had that realization that like maybe there is more to life, or maybe we should just do something. But which back to that gig economy thing, is because like I feel like a lot of companies, it really is just going to those freelance services. Even like I feel like in this time I've even noticed, maybe it's just because like I'm technically in the market for it, but like a lot of like these services that are even being made with of bots are just to like help you find a job sooner, which I mean, again, I don't want to get into the whole bot thing, even though I've talked about it too much, because it really is just like a newer phase of how we're gonna go about working regardless. Like even in the industry I was in, regardless, those faster pace progressions are gonna be something that like an industry like that is just going to desire. But I just don't think we should go into a gig economy or that like that's a structure I feel like that does work for some. And again, I feel like a lot of like blue collar type of jobs, they're going to be protected, medical, law, whatever. But a lot of the other industries, like, man, we're really just in that hiccup where like we're kind of just being told, or maybe to feel that like we just need to go do the gig economy, be a contractor, be a freelancer. The thing is like I don't want to do that though. But I guess like even with that is like those are the kind of people that like if you can just freelance or survive off full-blown freelancing, which I mean, hey, I've been getting by with it, why not just start your own company? Why even go back to like an agency setting if you can pull in your own clientele, like smaller business? Because even that time, like, listen, if you got a talent, go out and use it. I feel like that's a whole nother topic for a video, because this is just basically on the current state of the market that we're in. And I know like this current phase, I hope and I know it's going to spark a lot of change. I'm interested in honestly seeing exactly how things end up playing out. I feel like that's an easy cop out to say, but like where we really do end up in the next few years, I feel like, because obviously things are going to have to like get better, right? Like who really knows? I mean, I feel like we have been in a bad state, especially with the economic state of the world. Jane Smith was kind of right, where we really just should have been talking about it probably a lot sooner. Also, I think just should be illegal. I really do just think that like a lot of companies should have a lot more repercussions for when it comes to quiet promoting / quiet firing or laying off, and also quiet just halting when they're not hiring anymore. There should be repercussions for like when they post a job or something. But even with that, like now LinkedIn even has a reels excuse me, even LinkedIn has a reel section, so you can just scroll mindlessly, but it's for corporate content, or the corporate LinkedIn influencers are becoming a thing. Also, that is a thing I've even noticed, where some people, even like on the sales side, what they're doing is they're using social media, which is a great platform for that. But the thing is like the fact that like we can't even get a good enough outreach, so that we have to use social media because the corporation who's supposed to be paying us to get that outreach won't pay us enough money to have the services. So you're using TikTok to help pull in your clientele. Some cases I should say, but like I mean, everyone's seen like a funny car dealership come on down, or like even the sign guy who does the neon signs, he gets a good pull in, right? Like he's gained a lot of probably traction just from that. But even with that, car dealerships, man, a car dealership, if you're not on social media, or you don't hire a social media friendly kind of guy to be able to like promote that way on top of it, because those walk-ins, they're not doing enough. Those, like, especially in this time, no one's buying a car. I mean, even Porsche had I think it was like a 95% profit loss. That's brutal. A 95% profit loss for a car company. I mean, you get their luxury cars, and who is literally buying like a base minimum like 80k car in today's time, because there's way less people. I feel like that divide is happening where like there's just more people who are there's just more people struggling. We're all kind of struggling, even the people who were like fine or rich, kind of going through it. That upper class, again, that upper class classification isn't even technically the same, or isn't even there anymore. I know it's like the age old time, even people like to like admit that people back then, they just had it easier, in the sense that like they weren't necessarily paid as much, but like things also just didn't cost as much. So, but the thing is I feel like even when you're in white collar phase, like even that entry level career, they offer the same salaries that they were offering like back in the early 2000s, man. Like it's the same thing, more expensive prices. And that's like something that I just can't even like wrap my head around. And then like the whole Uncle Sam thing, look, I get that the whole 9-to-5 structure happened because Henry Ford literally did it as a competitive edge to get people to come work for him, to give them that balance so that they didn't have to be overworked as a factory worker. But then what, factories got replaced because robots became a thing, and then they started rehiring again. Even from what I heard about the 2008 recession, is how long it actually took for people to like land back on their feet, and it being like around a decade. Some people took a long time. Like, dude, you start to like burn bridges a little bit, or I should probably just say, like, I'm not saying, like, I've literally burnt bridges because of like the current stage I'm in. I feel like I've even just grown as a human being. I've also maybe in some ways like had a bitter outlook on a lot, but at the same time I feel like it's well deserved and needed, and in a way something I'm taking with me to help me grow. So anyways,
I want to be a cowboy, man.